Moving on. Let's get to Michigan versus Michigan State. So Michigan, tell me who, if you think this, if it doesn't matter. Michigan had a bye and then essentially had a second bye playing Northwestern, if we're being honest. Sparty has a full bye, though, and 2 weeks to prepare. Is there any advantage there whatsoever in the setup to the game?
I think there's always advantage to rest and preparation. I think the better coaching staffs typically win bowl games. That's why Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, and we can go to other examples, Dabo Swinney, have excellent bowl records because they've got more time to prepare and they're smarter. And their coaching staff is better prepared and implements that better than their competition. So there's something to that. Now, whether Mel Tucker and his coaching staff fit that bill, I'm not completely convinced. I think he's the right man for the job. I think he's done a great job. They have yet to beat a winning team. And I do believe that Michigan is the better team, but of course they're playing on the road. And Michigan State's playing a very loose brand of football, and I say that in a positive way. They're tight on offense and defense schematically, but I think that they understand, they feel really good about where they are. They didn't expect to be at this place. And maybe Michigan's finally gotten to the point where they were a very tightly wrapped team emotionally and mentally, and now they've kind of cut it loose, and they seem to have gained this level of confidence where, okay, we are good. We can win close games.
So when you look at the resumes of these two teams, I think they're actually very similar. They're at the time impressive non-conference dominant wins in both cases have not worn well, both for Michigan State against Miami and for Michigan against Wisconsin. I don't think Michigan has played a team that right now has a winning record either. Now, Michigan's part of the reason for that, in the case of, say, Nebraska and Wisconsin, but I think that stat that you mentioned to Michigan State applies to Michigan too. I think you've got
other than Wisconsin,
which is, you're right, they're 4-3 now, so there is a winning record there now. You're right about that. I think they'll be 5-3 after this weekend, actually. But to me, I wonder when I look at, I've watched a lot of Michigan State, and what I see is, from a passing game standpoint, overall, I think I've said this to you before, their coaches have done a phenomenal job of keeping it simple, stupid. All right, we're going to run downhill with a really good running back who would be a Heisman finalist right now if we were voting. And their passing game, a lot of it is either verticals or checkdowns. Like we're not running a lot of NFL route trees and combo routes and multiple reads, and that has worked well for Peyton Thorne. Now he has thrown a pick after having a Justin Fields 14-1 touchdown interception ratio the first few games. He's thrown a pick now in consecutive games. Whereas Michigan, what's fascinating, when you watch the film on Michigan, and former Michigan quarterback Devin Gardner has been doing this every week, and he really showed it this week, the amount of open receivers that Cade McNamara just doesn't even see. And it ain't like with our offensive line, he's under a lot of pressure. I think he's been sacked twice all year long. We're just talking he just gets up there pre-snap and decides where he's going to throw the ball and doesn't look. And even Harbaugh has talked for the last couple of weeks about, quote, leaving meat on the bone. If you look at Pro Football Focus's analytics, and if you look at EPA, the expected points analytic, which is very key, McNamara is 78th, Mark, amongst college quarterbacks out of 130. 78th in EPA. I would venture a guess there's never been a team in modern college football history, since we've been keeping the stat here for the last 10 years, that has been 7-0 with a quarterback 78th in EPA, because that means you're leaving a lot of points out on the field. So I think that this is a game where both teams have real quarterback questions. I think you've maybe seen evidence going in the last 2 weeks that maybe we're hitting some regression in the mean for Michigan State, like they've maybe maxed out their talent, and you've kind of seen it the last couple of games. You look at, Michigan number 2 in scoring defense. So I really think that maybe we're kind of back to what we thought of these teams in the preseason, where Michigan just has overall the better talent and the revenge angle. And I think I think there's a quiet advantage here for them that the game is at noon and not at night. I think that makes a field goal difference in the outcome.
Well, you've said it a number of times, at least one superstar elite player on the Michigan defense at each level. And there might be more, actually, that are emerging that I see. Yeah, the Michigan State-Indiana game may be telling in that, yeah, over the course of a 9-game Big Ten schedule, even if you are the best team or second best team in the league, you're gonna hit that one ugly, mid-afternoon Saturday game in the rain where you slog it through for a 17-13 win. Maybe that was Michigan State's game against Indiana, but I really don't think it was. I think those are teams that have comparable talent on the field, and Indiana kind of pulled it together for one game, good enough to hang with Michigan State, and I think that's a precursor. Not that Michigan State's going to get obliterated by the 3 powers in the division or anything like that, but I think that they're going to show, depending on the health of Penn State and the mindset of James Franklin in Penn State, where they rank. They're going to show this. I find it interesting also that if you look at the results against the likes of the Marylands and Rutgers, et cetera, and Indiana, where Ohio State has now come through, and they haven't proven anything against a good team, but still annihilating those 3 versus what's happened to the other teams. I think this could be a precursor to Ohio State near dominance down the stretch.
Well said. Appreciate it as always, man. Good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Steve, good to see you. It'll be interesting to see what our discussion looks like next week.
Indeed. The Earth is, we're going to have some tectonic shifts between now and next Tuesday. You betcha. We'll see you then.